putting the spotlight on local businesses in the capital city. This is 402 Business Insider with Travis Filing and Gary Tharnish on 1499.3 KLIN.
And you're listening to the 402 Business Insider. I'm Travis Filing. Thanks for joining us today. And with me is Gary. How you doing today, Gary?
I'm doing great. How about you? It's a beautiful day.
Oh, it's a perfect day.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect day. So, a little bummed the Huskers lost last night. So
I know. Don't save the pictures for too long.
My goodness. Well, this segment is brought to us by Complete Family Dermatology and Sartor Heyman Jewelers, so we appreciate you guys. Today, we're talking with Aaron Newell, who's the founder, CEO of AR Solutions. How you doing today, Aaron?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate you coming out. So let's talk AR Solutions. So AR Solutions is basically a collection agency, right?
That's correct.
Tell us a little bit about it.
We take a little bit of a different approach than the stereotypical agencies. We try to find the resolution for the consumer and our client to get the best outcome, get everyone taken care of, almost be the mediator without the, everybody seeing the bad actors on TV, Dateline 2020, that make national news. We're not those guys.
Yeah.
And so we just take a little bit of more of a consultative approach to get the best outcome for both.
I always look when I called and talked to you, because you've done collections for my company before.
We have.
And it's like, what would possess somebody to want to get into this? Because this is, as a business owner, collections is tough.
Yes,
it is.
It's tough. I couldn't imagine doing it 40 hours a week and having a staff. So how did you get started in collections?
That's a great question. And, honestly, it's one of the icebreaker things. If I go speak somewhere, I say, okay, everybody in the room, in the audience, that when they wanted to be a debt collector when they were a kid, stand up. Nobody stands up, right? And so it's one of those businesses that you kind of either just fall into, or somebody or a family member or something. But honestly, so my path was, as I got my degree in paralegal studies and I was going to work for a year and go to law school, well, I started working doing all the pre-legal stuff for a local collection agency here. Learned the business. The gentleman took me under his wing, taught me the business, and then he sold it in 2000, and then I left there and started my own in 2005.
Oh, very good. Okay. So you're from Lincoln. Did you start here in Lincoln?
Started the business in Lincoln, but I'm not from here originally. I'm originally from a really small town, south central Nebraska. I moved here to go to college quite some time ago. If I mention the year, I'll date myself. But
we're all getting old.
I'm the oldest in the room. You're fine.
It's been a while. And so, yeah, I guess Lincoln is our roots now. It's a great place to raise kids and a great place to have a business.
Yeah.
What small town? My daughter's in Red Cloud.
So Red Cloud's close.
Yeah.
I grew up in a town called Hardy. It was just outside of Superior, which is about 45 minutes from Red Cloud.
There you go. Yeah, great.
Yeah, you'll love small town Nebraska. Just love it.
Yeah,
Absolutely love it. So, you do nationwide, right?
We do. We've actually really done a lot of online marketing and growing that area of our business to be more nationwide. So we used to always just be regional, Nebraska in the bordering states, just because we had somewhat of a niche there, knowing that the demographics of the area, whether Western Nebraska, Lincoln, Omaha, wherever it was, knowing that area very, very well, which added to our success. But we've actually taken that model and went nationwide too.
Okay. Is it difficult? Are there different rules in different states when it comes to collections?
Significantly different rules in different states. Like, so for instance, the garnishment laws in Iowa are significantly different than Nebraska. Texas, you cannot garnish wages. You can only garnish banks or execute on assets. And in all different states are all different.
So you get to learn. Do you just pick up a client and all of a sudden, here's my first client in Texas, and now I got to figure out how to do it in Texas, or do you seek business in specific states?
That's both ways, pretty much. And so if there's a significant client that wants us to do work for them in one of those states, we will certainly take them on and then do the research and make sure that we can operate in that business. If not, we go through the licensing procedures in those businesses or in those states, because there are states that have reciprocity with Nebraska.
Okay.
And ones that don't. And so sometimes the licensing process is very rigorous, and or you need to have a brick and mortar facility in those states, which is more expensive.
Interesting. I wouldn't have even thought you had to license in those states. That's how little bit I know about collections.
I didn't even know you needed to be licensed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's news to me. I mean, it makes sense, though, that you would want to be. So do you have designated staff that works southeastern United States or northwestern or by states that are similar, or can any of the people working for you do any state? Everybody learns everything.
Everyone learns everything, because we also, so every quarter, our call list switches between all of our representatives. I do that for, number one, people work things differently. And so sometimes the different voice, the different gender, just the different age, whoever it is talking to those people can get a different outcome.
Sure, definitely.
interesting.
That makes complete sense. Welcome back to the 402 Business Insider. Today we have Aaron Newell from AR Solutions with us, which is great. This segment's being sponsored by Barry Law and James Arthur Vineyards, who had that wonderful junk food wine pairing in March. I mean,
That's
that still
right.
cracks me up. Anyway.
And I think I saw Barry Law on your website, John Barry. I imagine it's the same one.
It is,
as
yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
John and I go way back, like when he first came back from Iraq in 2005 or 6. I think we met at the gym and just been friends ever since.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I did his wedding flowers most recently.
Oh,
which
did
was
you
great
really?
Several years ago. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
His wife is just a sweetheart. Real nice gal, too. So collections, what a fun thing that you got into, right? So it was interesting to me that you're national when we were just talking about that in the earlier segment. Is there a certain part of the country or state that's more difficult to work in than others? And that's A, question. B, you said you had to go through licensing state by state. Is that vastly different state by state or kind of pretty similar? Like, is there a federal form you fill out or is it each state uniquely different?
So I'll do question B first because it's a little easier. There are different state requirements that are significantly different throughout all of the nation. Some states don't require any licensing. They just require like a letter of intent.
Oh.
Some states require very rigorous licensing that's very expensive. So there's certain states you just choose not to operate in because it's just not worth it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if your margins aren't going to be there, why would you bother?
Right.
That's crazy. And then difficult states or not want to mention it?
There are some. And this might be a little tip if you don't ever want to pay a bill. But so Nevada is very difficult. They have their auditing procedures are extremely rigorous. They'll be in your office for sometimes 60 to 90 days and it's hindering your progress and you're answering all these questions and it might be the exact same thing that comes back 2 to 3 months later. And so we just choose not to operate us physically in Nevada, but we have colleagues that they're there and they actually welcome business to be forwarded to them. So like if we have accounts placed with us in Nebraska and it's a state we're not licensed in or choose not to, we can forward the accounts to them and they can work the accounts, but we're the liaison between our client and them to handle those accounts.
Nice.
So Nevada you actually have to have a physical presence in Nevada to do collections?
I don't recall about the physical presence. I don't know if it's one of those states. I know that, Arizona is one, Colorado is one. But Nevada, when it's got to be the point with the auditing thing and how rigorous that is, we just chose not to do research.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That would be impossible. I mean, collections is hard enough, let alone have to jump through all these hoops.
I have a question about COVID time. Was there a lot of pivoting there? Were there any laws during COVID where you couldn't collect? Or, I mean, I know rents were a real issue in my business, was something that changed fairly drastically. Did that affect you at all or?
The biggest thing COVID affected us was, we have a large portfolio of medical clients, and you couldn't do any elective surgeries in medical care in that time. So that the placements for that was down because it was just normal. I mean, like ambulatory stuff and emergency stuff and things that had to be done, but nothing elective. And then our real estate clients, that changed significantly. There wasn't any placements for probably 3 years at least because of the moratorium on being able to evict and that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, it's a big challenge.
And for real estate clients was like 2008. Was that had to be a nightmare too because I mean everything crashed.
It was, and so it was for us. We work accounts that's called cradle to grave, and so accounts are placed with us, and we work them until they're completely either uncollectible, bankrupt, deceased, or that's the basic reasons why we would stop working them. But with us, our ability to work on the accounts up until the statutory limits and also being on the credit report changes how we work things.
Okay. Interesting. So when it comes to, you said you have partners, that do other states, is collections are there tons of collections agencies out there, or is it a pretty tight-knit group? Do you know a lot of other collection agency businesses that you kind of work side by side with or help each other out with or anything like that?
The broad answer to your question is yes on all accounts, but not all of them operate the way that we operate. And so The ones that we choose to send business to and out of state are members of the American Collectors Association. And there's certain things that when you sign on, when you become a member of those, it's a paid membership, but you become a member, you get all kinds of legal assistance and industry trends and so forth, but also the ethical and moral responsibilities you're supposed to maintain if you're a member. And so those are the ones we choose to send business to because we don't want to jeopardize our clients. That's one of the biggest things that in collections that people sometimes don't understand is that we're an extension of our client. And so how we handle those consumers is a direct reflection upon our client. And the last thing we want is that to be a negative situation.
Oh, yeah. You can adversely affect someone's brand big time, right? Because if it's really heavy-handed on the collection and then they're telling all their friends, if it goes well, they're not going to tell anyone because nobody wants to know you're in collections. But if it's bad, it can affect the brand. That's a really valid point that I would not have really thought about. But it's that'd be a big concern, I think, especially on your big accounts.
Yeah, and we're really cognizant of that. And so we meet with, whether it be CEOs, CEFOs of large institutions or hospitals, and some of them, that's the very first thing they say is the most thing we're concerned about is our PR brand, right? And so that's very important in how we handle their accounts. And honestly, so I mentioned in one of our breaks, we're doing a lot of online marketing, and I do a lot of instructional videos and educational videos on YouTube. And so we really try to educate the consumer on what to do if you're in collections, the best way to handle that. Don't ignore it. That's the worst thing ever to do because that means you need to escalate how you get the account collected because at the end of the day, you have to collect that money if possible. And then so also the educational piece for our clients and to understand. So if we're educating the consumer, they know that we have the best interests of both in mind, but also getting to the resolution that makes both amicable, right? And so we have to collect the money, but sometimes it's not comfortable, but we explain it to them so it's completely transparent. They understand where it's coming from, why they owe the bill, and then we get to the resolution.
Yeah, see, having that conversation, I think, would be so important because there's some people that get into collections because they're just like, I'm not going to pay this bill, and then I don't care. That might be my fault.
Is that you?
It probably is. Yes, I'm in real estate, And so it's my cash register. And, they just don't care. I mean, it's like, I don't care about my credit. I don't care, whatever. I mean, you're going to have that set of people, I would think. But you're probably the majority, I would think, is like, look, I have this situation going on in my life. This happened. Now I'm in collections. Let's say they want to work. They want to make it work out, but they can maybe only afford a small payment on a large debt. Is there algorithm or figures that you use to say, hey, if you owe $5,000, we need to collect it timely. You have to pay $200 a month, or what does that look like? Can you start at a lower amount and work up? I mean, what all happens with that?
So we try to, our number one goal is to get payment in full and first contact for our clients. But if we can't, we have situations in place like you just mentioned. And so we try to get, so our next step is we try to get things paid in 3 months. And if it's still large enough, like $3,000 or $5,000, sometimes the payment, divided into three is still too large for people to do.
Sure.
And if that's the case, then we'll set them up on a 6-month payment plan with a smaller amount, good faith essentially to our clients, and almost like the debt flow process where you try to pay down your smaller bills and roll your payment into your bigger ones to get everything paid off quicker. And so we will revisit the account and talk to the consumer on month 5 to see how things have changed and if we can increase that payment. But we're realistic, right? So there's not money trees in people's backyards. You can't just produce. You can't just create money. And so just being realistic with them and then just transparent. In addition to the payment thing, is so for instance our medical portfolio. Medical billing is complicated, and so you could have your deductible, your co-insurance, your copay. And even if you go in for a normal procedure or an office visit and then you do something additional, now it turns into a procedure and there's a co-insurance in addition to the copay you paid at the front desk. And so explaining that to the patient, or if you go to, let's say, the ER, you could get bills from the attending physician, which may not be an employee of the hospital. You get a bill from the emergency room. You get a bill from, if they send any lab work off, you get a bill from the pathologist. If they took any x-rays, now it's a bill from the radiologist. If they did any anesthesia, now you get a bill from the anesthesiologist. And people get overwhelmed. And so we just try to explain to them how the bill came about. And yes, all these people were in that one facility, but they were not all employees there. They bill separately, and that's where it's from. And then a lot of times we get this aha moment. They're like, oh, now I get it. So let's figure out a way to get these people paid. Or even we've had situations where, hospitals are nonprofits most of the time, at least the ones here in Lincoln. And so you can fill out financial assistant paperwork, but that information, that's not the same for all the other physicians that handle
everybody
the
else
case.
involved. Yeah.
And sometimes the patient thinks that. And so
Yeah.
we have to explain to them too that no, that's only for the hospital. Some of our clients will follow the same guidelines, but not all.
You know, I had a fun one recently. So I had some health issues recently, but I had to have biopsies done on a couple tumors on my thyroid, which are all gone now, which is a good thing. But my share after deductible and everything was like $1,800 for each one, which I didn't know. This is a perfect example of how the consumer has no idea, right? So I get this bill and I pay it in full. And I get another bill like the next month. I'm like, I paid that. And it's probably crossed over in the mail. No big deal. Third month, I get the bill again. I'm like, well, what's going on? So I email them. I'm like, I already paid this bill. Da, 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 da. And they wire back, yeah, you did. It probably crossed over in the mail. I'm like, month 3? Like, dude, you took it out, 10 weeks ago. And then I get a collection call from that actual lab, like a first collection call. And I go, I have paid that. Well, it's all the same numbers, and then at the very end, it's dash A and dash B. It's $1,800 per tumor. So I'm like, okay, people, that was super confusing. But going through the medical billing of that whole situation last year really was a nightmare. You don't know, did this go through insurance, and now it's my deductible, not as my, that would be a whole set of challenges that would just be time consuming on your part. I would think, of course, you deal with it a lot, so you get used to it, but.
We do, and that's one of the biggest reasons we educate. So when I mentioned when I first started in the business, the gentleman, well, he was a manager of a radiology group for a long time, and so that's where I learned was the medical billing piece. And so we teach all of our people that exact scenario you're talking about, so they can explain to the consumer, because we may not get them on the phone a second time, but if we can, at least we can understand and they know where the bill comes from. That's the biggest thing when I mentioned the last thing you want to do is ignore it, because your prime example, you thought you paid it. Everything was exactly the same except for that little modifier on the end, right?
Right, yeah.
And so that could have got you in a legal trouble. If collections, it would have got to that point for a civil judgment, which nobody wants. So it's just the explanation in talking with the consumer. So I'd encourage all of them. Nobody's going to jump through the phone and grab you, right? So just take the time and communicate with them.
Sure.
Yeah. This segment brought to us by Red Rhino Roofing and Western National Bank. And I'll tell you, I talk about perfect timing. Western National Bank. So they are such an incredible bank, and I'm going to tell you why you want to stick with a local bank, local people, as opposed to some big national bank. So this woman called me, she got my number from a friend of mine, and her daughter had passed away. And she's probably, I'm guessing, in her 80s or 90s. And she is trying to go through all the nightmare of trying to settle this estate and get things put together. And she called this bank, and I'm not going to mention who they are because they have enough money to sue me. So we'll call them Bada Bing National Bank. Okay. I just think of like the Big Lebowski, right? Did you guys see him shoving his head in the top? Where's the money, Lebowski? That's what I think of in these national banks. So anyway, she's explaining the situation. And as she's telling me, I mean, she's getting choked up. It's very emotional. I mean, I'm sick for this woman.
She lost her daughter.
Right. And so she's like, look, there's no income coming in. I have no way of paying this. And so basically, can we work something out? And this bank says, hey, if you don't pay, we're gonna start foreclosure proceedings and just kind of reads of the Riot Act. And it's a situation like that again for Western National Bank. You call them. If that was your bank, you go, hey, here's the situation. I'm sure they're going to figure something out. At least they're going to give you some good advice, as opposed to bada bing. They're going to threaten and scare. And it's like, this is crazy.
Which goes back to, Aaron, what you were saying, where it really is all about communication, right? Don't hide from your debt, number one. So here's somebody trying to communicate.
Right.
That needs to be a two-way street as well. But it all comes back to communication. And then that personal relationship with the bank or whomever you work with, huge in business. I mean, it's really, really important to have that. I struggled a lot in my business after 2001. I just spent $250,000 buying buying the largest flower shop in town. We were doing fantastic, and then who needed flowers after the towers were attacked?
Exactly.
Everybody was scared.
Everyone tightened up.
It was a financial nightmare for me,
buddy.
and I didn't want to file bankruptcy. In retrospect, I'd say, I'd probably file bankruptcy now. I paid all my debts. It took a while, but it really was about establishing relationships and just saying, this is where I'm at. This is what I can do. And it worked out in the end. I got them all paid, which is great. But it is about communication, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And that's like I talked about before. The last thing you want to do is ignore them, but just be candid. Just have candid conversations.
Yeah.
And let's try to find a resolution because, again, there's not money trees in people's backyards.
Yeah. And we were talking off air about do you report to the credit agency if people make their payments on time? And that's a no. But which makes sense, right? I mean, because that's a whole nother level of everything. But I'm sure they know, are going to figure out if you get your debt paid. So in my mind, you're turned over to collections. Now Experian and all of them know that you're in collections. What they're probably looking for is then was it paid off?
Correct.
And what's that time frame or whatever. So the time frame, if you're in debt, the time frame to pay it off, you're much better off if you can do that quicker rather than later, I would think.
Absolutely. They look at the time frame that it takes because, if you think what people use Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion for is risk levels and propensity to pay or the ability to pay or timeliness. That's the biggest things they're looking for.
Yeah, definitely. It's huge in real estate, your credit rating and how to work with that. I have somebody that wants to buy a house, and after our initial conversation, I said, I'm going to hook you up with this mortgage broker because they're great at education. And let's put you off about 6 months to a year. If I was just commission hungry, I'd go, let's go look and pray something happens.
Right.
But really for her, there's fixes she can do now that will make a huge difference. But one of her things was, she just flat out shares with me, and she's crying about it. But she says, I'm in collections for, ABC, and this is what's going on. And I'm like, well, you need to talk to them first off, because she was doing exactly what you said because of just this fear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like this woman that I was talking to, I probably gave her, I go, this is not advice. This is not legal advice. So for our listeners, this is probably not even good advice. But she was so emotionally charged. And I said, you know what? If they call or if you talk to them again, they threaten collections, or not collections, but they threaten foreclosure. I said, go ahead and do it. Tell them, do it. Right? Because your name's not on the house. So it's not going to blow back on you, and put them on their heels. They don't want to own your house.
Well, and that's a whole nother situation too, though, right? Because her daughter died, so that brings up a whole different.
It does.
thing.
It does.
Yeah. So I have a question for you. This is hypothetical, but I own a company. I now have $25,000 in debt, and it's 30 different clients. How do I hire you? What does that process look like? I'm looking for a collection agency. Maybe I Google it. Your name comes up. I call you. What does that look like? Signing a contract? Is it case by case, client by client?
So that's a really good question. People probably think when they call me and ask if they can use our services that I interview them. I want to make sure we're a good fit for them and we can get the resolution they want.
Smart.
And so I'll ask them a variety of questions, whether it be, do you have contracts in place? Is there disputes in place? What are we up against here? And the type of account you're talking about is the legal contract, because you'd be surprised what some people want you to try to collect. That's not legal.
Well, Gary owes me $10. Can you help me out on that? Or
Gosh, it was 20 10 minutes ago. Did you see that? It just went down 10.
We got some negotiations already. And so then back to your question, if we're a fit for them and we can help them get to a resolution, there is paperwork involved, and so it's just a simple. Ours is just a 3-page contract. It basically outlines 90% of what we do, 10% of what their responsibility is in regard to reporting payments to us or timely communications. And we also talked about off air a little bit what the original creditor can do when it's placed in collections. And we always educate them on the things to do and to not do, because we can never give the expression to the consumer that two people are working on an account. That's a violation. That's a federal statute violation.
See, and that type of communication and education that you give to both the client and then, of course, the person you're trying to collect from when you need to is so vitally important. That professionally makes you stand out from possibly from other collection agencies that may not do that. I mentioned when we hired our first company, it was the late 80s, and really had no education from them at all. It's just kind of like, oh, this is what you'll get if we collect, and that was just kind of it. And then the business I was in was a floral business, so it was a very you establish relationships a lot. You're dealing with somebody, maybe somebody got married, somebody passed away, whatever it might be. You have this kind of relationship. So, of course, they get a call from the collection agency. We've been trying to talk to them for 6 months. Now they get a call and they call us up. Hey, let's just set something up to pay it. It's like too late.
Yeah.
I think however, the first time it happened to us, we didn't know that. So we're kind of like, well, yeah, I can call them and see, and then it's like, no, wait. So I love that upfront professionalism that you actually interview them and make sure they know what's going on too. So
we do, and we educate them for the scenario you just talked about. And so I can't explain it, but it's a psychological thing the consumer has. And so, for instance, when they get our initial letter, phone call, text, whatever it is, communication it is, a lot of times they will reach out to the original client, and because they just think it's a reminder. They don't understand it's a completely separate contract, a type of business that's helping them do this. And again, we educate them on saying, we've hired this other agency to do this, funnel all communications through them. Federal statute, I cannot tell them to not communicate with them, or I can't tell the consumer that, because they always have the ability to pay the original client and or communicate with them. But we always try to make it so it's very clear there's only one amount due, because that's where the federal statute comes into play. You can't deceive the least sophisticated debtor. And so if the original consumer or the original client is talking to them about that, as well as the agency, without that educational piece to the consumer, they could realistically think they owe twice as much.
So I want to share this with you and see if you can help me get out of this. So 2 years ago, I'm not going to say gentleman, some male by the name of Nick gave people my phone number. And I started getting collection calls for Nick 2 years ago. And a lot of the companies were good. It was different collection companies too, by the way. A guy must have owed a ton of money. But it's like, hey, look, I'm a realtor in Lincoln, Nebraska. You can look up my phone number. Just, Google Gary Tharnish Real Estate, Lincoln, Nebraska. And you're going to, they don't even want to hear it. And to this day, then what's hilarious about it is about a year later, then I started getting calls from people wanting to loan Nick money. I don't know, intentionally to pay off debt or whatever, but I'm still having this challenge today. And I don't know where to report it or how I can get rid of it. Now I just have fun with it, but it's like.
Well, that's an interesting question. And so with all the communication methods there are now, especially the texting is the newest, best way, in my opinion, to communicate.
Yeah. And
if you choose to text, you're supposed to run all the numbers through the reassigned number database. So, like, for instance, if you get it, hardly anybody does this anymore, but if you get a different cell phone number, this database reports that, right? And so it's Gary has this new number now that Nick used to have or fraudulently gave, and it would weed those numbers out of the communications that I can send text messages to.
So can I ask them to do that? Ask that they've done that, or?
Well, it's amazing. So when I talk to clients about this, there's a lot of people that don't even know that you're supposed to do this. There's texting vendors that probably do it on the back end that didn't tell their clients that they're doing this.
Okay, sure.
But that's the legal way you're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
In your situation, you could if you try to tell them before and it doesn't, there's just bad actors out there, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, that they don't care. They think you're probably Nick and giving them an excuse, and they just don't know the difference.
I got to it. I started doing real funny stuff. I'm terrible. I'm not going to tell you what
I'd hand it off to my, your grandkids love to talk on the phone.
Like
let them talk to the collection person.
Died in a car accident last week.
And I'm glad that it sounds like Nick, because people are wanting to make you loans.
And a lot of money. I'm just like, what is the deal here? Anyway, this segment is sponsored by Integrated Behavioral Health Services and the Lincoln Airport.
Love the Lincoln Airport.
I do too, man. We got great tickets heading out to California. I think I mentioned it a few weeks ago. Saved $150 per ticket flying out of Lincoln.
That's awesome.
Crazy. Wonderful. Going west is great out of Lincoln. East is okay too, but I probably shouldn't say that's a bad thing. It's getting better. Let's word it.
There you go.
Our guest today is Aaron Newell with AR Solutions. We've been having a really good conversation about collections and what that all looks like. And it's been great talking to you, Aaron. Learning quite a bit about collections.
Yeah.
So is there something we haven't covered you want to talk about?
Oh, how much time do we have?
We have, it's limited, but go.
There is just so many things. When I speak to different people about collections, and I tell them all the laws we have to abide by and all the strategies and the predatory attorneys out there that want to sue us for everything. And the question I get is that why do you do what you do?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, why do you?
Well, I fell into the business, number one, and you kind of find out, you're kind of good at it, and and there's a service that clients need, and so smaller businesses that we do collections for sometimes may not be able to, make ends meet, cover overhead, pay their 941 taxes, whatever it is, and so it's unfortunately a cost of doing business that you can't get away from.
Sure.
Well, and something too, being that, we've worked together, I had to learn a lot of things the hard way. So I want to give advice, business owners, people who are running companies out there right now, get out your notebooks. Let's give them some advice to prepare. Every time you sell something, you almost have to think of it as this could be a collection problem, even if you've been doing business with them for 20 years. So what advice can you give to business owners and business people out there that are should be preparing? What should they be doing?
The best advice I can give is, so you think scenario basis. And so if you're a poker player, and even if you're not, this is how it works. So all the rules are put out before the game starts and any money is on the table, because information is free flowing at that point, right? And so once money gets involved, or a contract gets involved, or services get involved, bad actors sometimes look for a way out without meeting their obligations. And so I will talk with any prospective client or any business and try to educate them on how they can improve their collections in-house and all the information to gather if it has to go to collections, because that does a couple of different things. It increases their in-house collections, makes a better procedure for them to follow, and it's consistent. But then also, if it has to come to collections, all the information ever needed is at their fingertips. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing that I'll tell them, though, is the caveat is you don't want to overburden your high percentage of people that pay gathering all this information for the small percentage of people that don't. So you have to know your business demographic and not be overly broad on those questions to alienate all the people that are going to pay.
But like having a contract, having an agreement of some sort in writing with signatures is probably the first step, I would think. Making sure that, hey, kind of like, I love the poker scenario. The rules are laid out before the cards start flying.
Correct. Right. Another thing about contracts, too, to think about this day and age is we've gone to a subscription society, right? So you can hire doctors now, and you pay $2,500 a year, $3,000, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's prorated out to a monthly payment, and you can go to that doctor when you need to. There's no additional charges for the office visit, that sort of a thing. But, if you don't have your contract written out, right, and I know I'm sick, I can go in and say, hey, I'm going to do this year contract, and the first 6 weeks I'm in there a ton, I get fixed and then just drop my subscription. All those things have to be thought about, because then the doctor's sitting here going, wow, I gave you $6,000 worth of service. Mm-hmm. You had 3-month subscription and now you're gone. Do you see anything do subscriptions come into play anymore with you on collections? I just think that's such a new thing, and so many people have subscriptions. Do you see any of that? Has that not really affected you at all, or?
I've had that question from some DPC physicians here, direct primary care physicians in Lincoln, and because they're a subscription-based concierge physician, and it's really not that significant because they just stop treatment. But so they may, at the very beginning, typically it's a 12-month contract with them, and they're written differently, and I've reviewed different ones, and it kind of depends on how they're written, but a lot of times there's like a 60-day out for them, so worst case scenario, they're going to owe 2 months worth of whatever their monthly obligation was.
Yeah. So that'd be, if you were going into this subscription business, I can't say subscription today, subscription business, that'd be speaking with you ahead of writing that contract would be a good idea, because you want to know, hey, if this starts falling apart, what can I fall back on if I've given them $10,000 in services and they paid me $800?
Yeah, and that's, we can give the information from what we see from a client. I'm not an attorney. I can't give legal advice and write the contract for them, but just what we see is a trend throughout the business. And so getting yourself protected, and that's one of the things when people start a new business is that they're exciting, right? So it's a emotional thing. They're all excited and they don't know all these pitfalls of business. And if you can open their eyes to some of that without scaring the hell out of them, you can help them along the way, or give them some realistic expectations that not every consumer, not every customer is going to pay. And if they don't, how are you going to handle it?
Yeah, key right there.
And is there anybody out that ever calls you and you just can't help them? They have not set themselves up for success. They have not set you up for success. Is there any scenario like that where it's like, geez, you don't have a contract, you don't have anything like that? There's really not much we can do.
There are some, but there's also some legal, so for instance, there's something called unjust enrichment. So for instance, if I'm an electrician, I go to your house, I do the work we agreed upon, and I put in this extra stuff you asked me to do, but I didn't have a change order in place. And I've seen this, we've had this happen, that they don't want to pay for that additional stuff. And And so those situations, you can still, if it's significant enough, you can argue if you file the civil lawsuit of unjust enrichment because it's essentially an implied contract. But those outlets didn't show up magically, right? Somebody had to do it. There's a cost for doing that.
Yeah. So based on that, because something just spiked in my head, I bought a building. This was 20 years ago, and I got a bid for I don't remember what it was, HVAC or something like that, and it was say $8,000. Okay, great. Sign the contract, off we go. Then literally the bill shows up and it was $12,000. Well, hold on. We didn't make any changes. We didn't do anything. And the guy goes, well, that's just what it cost me. I can't lose money on this. I go, wait a minute. We have an agreement here. And he filed a lien on the building. It's like, knock yourself out. We'll take this to court. Did he have a late? Was I in the wrong? Was he in the wrong? Because I'm sitting here going, oh, I've got a signed contract and agreement. And we didn't make any changes.
Was there any wording in the contract that talked about changes or if they found a problem in the house? I deal with this all the time in real estate, by the way, constantly. I mean, we have 1,000 different change order forms, it seems like. But I don't know.
It's a weird spot, right?
Yeah,
it is. I would, just in my mind, doing the right thing, it sucks to lose money, but, my word is worth a lot. And so if I gave someone an estimate, that's what it's going to cost. And if I missed something or whatever it was, I may communicate with them, but more than likely I'm just going to eat it. You know? So I don't know in that situation what happened. Typically, I think, Gary, you probably used to, is it escalation clauses in real estate? Like where if it goes up,
we call them change order forms mostly, where it changes. Escalation we use in making an offer for $200,000. If there's other offers, we'll escalate to $230,000. I mean, that's mostly where I see the word escalation used. But the other thing too is just pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Or text. It's really easy to say, hey, Travis, I'm getting in the middle of this. I'm going to have to run new ductwork that I didn't see till I took the HVAC out. That's going to cost this much extra. How do you want me to proceed? I'm sorry about that. That's what didn't happen. That should happen.
Exactly.
Now we've got a lien involved. And I mean, I see that a lot in real estate's mechanical liens. They don't have to be reported to the owner of the home. So they go to sell and they're like, it's like, Harvey, did you not pay for that guy that did work on our house 8 years ago? Because we have a lien now. No, I paid him, but the lien is for the difference of exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I mean, on my situation, it was I didn't pay it because it's like, I get that you misbid this, but I also have a plan, and I can't afford to pay for your mistake so that you can be profitable. So
had you known, you may not have even done the work.
Right, or got a different bid or done something different. So, it was an interesting situation. This segment brought to us by Lincoln Coin and Bullion, the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce. Absolutely love Jason and those guys down there. And the UPS stores. We just had Brad in a couple weeks ago. Yeah. That was such a great conversation. He does great. And, again, they do our printing. They printed up our business cards for the 402 Insider. They printed up our thank you cards, envelopes.
They do so much.
They do.
Amazon
it's
returns,
like the list. During that conversation with them, I'm like, holy crap, you guys do that and that and that.
Exactly.
So small business, you need help, talk to them. Last segment here. So we're with Aaron at AR Solutions. Is there, let's just talk some final takeaways. What do you want to tell business owners? Because I know you do a lot of YouTube videos, kind of coaching people up, how to handle their own collections to a degree. Mm-hmm. How do we find those YouTube videos?
So there should be links to those YouTube videos on our website, which is arsolutionsinc.com. If not, they're shared on social media, my personal LinkedIn page, and it'll show snippets on there, and you can click on the video to see the full video to get the education.
Very good. And if there's a business out there that has some collections that they need some help with, that's a perfect way. Just go online, find you, reach out, and you'll help them along.
We'll do our best.
Are the YouTube videos just for your clients that need their debt collected, or is it also good for a consumer if they're a little nervous? I'm thinking that the first call you get from a collection company, you freeze up and freak out a little bit, right? So is there some information on there too about, hey, this is why you should work with the collection company, what you should do, should not do to help you down the road and get you back in good shape?
There are a few. Most of them are for client education.
Sure.
But, like I talked about at the beginning, we do both sides, and we try to educate the consumer as well. And when I talked about the CFOs and CEOs cognizant of their PR reputation, is that when they see us educating the consumer like that, they know how we're going to handle them. It's like the most aggressive type thing where they're going to beat down your door and take your firstborn.
Yeah.
Well,
Which in some cases, on certain days, you could babysit for the week.
Yeah. And there's always that stigma that, is with your business, because people have had experiences and you see it on TV and movies and whatnot as you guys are the worst people on the planet. And that's not the case. So one thing that I've taken from this conversation is talk to people, talk to business owners, if you're just a consumer and you're behind on your credit card debt, whatever it is, pick up the phone and start talking and just let them know where you're at. That's got to help a ton.
Absolutely. Because, as an agency, we have no idea what's happening in someone else's life until they communicate with us, and so, but if they don't communicate, all we know is that they're making an effort to not take care of the situation to resolve it. So that means we need to go to the next level to get the account collected, and that might mean a civil lawsuit or whatever that might mean.
Yeah, putting your head hiding under the covers, it's not a solution.
Correct.
Just be honest, even if it's embarrassing. Hey, I got fired. I got whatever. We got robbed. Whatever it is.
Newsflash on that. Don't be embarrassed about any situation you're in life, because we are all messy.
Yeah, right.
I've known Aaron for a long time. He is one of the I'm kidding. Messy. But I mean, right. I mean, it's human nature, of course. But that's what happens with the communication, is that they get so, when you owe somebody, you feel bad about it anyway. And then you clam up. And if you get in that shell of no communication, that only gets worse. I always say it's like being on a snowball at the top of a mountain. You're not clocking anybody because you owe debt, and that starts rolling down the hill. And then by the time it gets to the bottom, you have this huge mess. Yeah. So communication takes care of that.
What I've always told my kids, you train people how to treat you. And this is a perfect example. If you're ignoring, my guess is you've taken all your money and you're just laying on the beach somewhere. Yeah. But if I tell you, hey, I got whatever, this is my situation, it's going to help you an absolute ton.
Right.
So give us that website one more time.
So the website is arsolutionsinc.com.
All right. And we're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. Probably Twitter. Maybe Twitter. Not Twitter. Who uses Twitter? Is Twitter a thing anymore?
Technically X.
X.
Oh, X.
See?
Yeah, not for me.
All right. Well, thanks for coming in and talking to us. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's a ton of fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Good to see you again.
We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening to the 402 Business Insider, and have a good one. Go Huskers.